The MAZ 541 is the largest sedan in the world, an incredible creation by the engineers of the Minsk automobile plant. Why was it built? Was it to impress the world with the capabilities of the Soviet automotive industry and set a world record? Or maybe this sedan was meant to become the official car for the highest ranks of the Communist Party elite? Or was the MAZ 541 simply a product of the typical Soviet tendency toward gigantomania? No. The appearance of this giant had a completely practical purpose and was connected to the world of aviation. The first manned flight by the Wright brothers on the motorized airplane Flyer 1, which took place on December 17, 1903 near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, ushered in the global era of aviation. After that, aircraft construction developed at an incredibly rapid pace. New aircraft designs appeared, which were built not from wood and fabric, but from a stronger material, aluminum. With each new decade, the size and weight of airplanes increased. If the small airplanes of the early 20th century could be pushed out of a hangar by just 2 or 3 people, then by the time of World War II, moving aircraft on the ground required mechanized towing operations. For this, they used whatever was at hand, from regular staff SUVs to trucks or tractors. A real breakthrough in aircraft construction happened during World War II. The latest technologies were introduced, and the first airplanes with turbojet engines appeared. It was precisely military developments that gave rise to the post-war aviation boom, both in military and civil aviation. In the 1950s, countries like Great Britain, Canada, the United States, and the USSR began building the world's first civil passenger airliners powered by jet engines. While these planes were graceful and light as feathers in the sky, on the ground at airports they turned into multi-ton machines, poorly suited for moving on land. As everyone knows, airplanes don't have a reverse gear. This is especially troublesome for large airliners, which, unlike small sports or military aircraft, cannot turn around in the limited space of airports. That's why the reverse function is delegated to special tow vehicles, which latch onto the nose landing gear and turn the plane in the desired direction, after which the aircraft moves on its own. Regular SUVs or tractors were no longer sufficient for such tasks. There arose a need for something specific and unique, designed precisely for working with heavy airliners within the confines of airports. This need for a new airport tug arose among Soviet airport services in the mid-1950s, when the first Soviet passenger jet airliner, the Tu-104, entered service. At that time, all-wheel drive YAZ Tu-14 trucks were used as airport tugs, operating in almost all Soviet airports. However, after the mass introduction of Tu-104 airliners with a maximum takeoff weight of 74.5 tons, the power of the YAZ tugs was no longer sufficient. They were temporarily replaced by new 4-axle heavy all-wheel drive MAZ 535 tugs, the production of which was established at the Minsk automobile plant in 1958. At first glance, it might seem that a 4-wheel drive ballast tractor with a total weight of 27 tons and a 12-cylinder engine producing 375 horsepower is the best option for an airfield tug easily capable of towing the heaviest aircraft. Undoubtedly, the MAZ 535 had some of the best traction characteristics. It transported all types of armored vehicles, towed heavy artillery across rough terrain, and even carried heavy intercontinental ballistic missiles from storage sites to the launch pads at cosmodromes. There were absolutely no complaints about the power of these machines. However, when it came to the layout, significant drawbacks emerged that made the MAZ tractor poorly suited for performing the functions of an airfield tug. The main design obstacles standing in the way of a brilliant career as an airfield tug were the bulky dimensions, which made maneuvering in confined spaces impossible. The height of the vehicle was especially problematic, as it prevented the truck from getting close to the plane without hitting its fuselage. But, as we mentioned earlier, the MAZ 535 was only supposed to serve as an airfield tug temporarily because since 1956, the MAZ Design Bureau, following an order from the Ministry of Automotive Industry of the USSR, had been working on the development of a specialized airfield tug. The Minsk automobile plant was not chosen by chance, since the team in Minsk already had the necessary experience in designing non-standard trucks, which they had gained while developing the MAZ 525 quarry dump trucks and the 4-axle MAZ 535 tractors. The MAZ Design Bureau was given clear requirements regarding the technical and operational characteristics of the future airfield tractors. The main requirements included compact dimensions, especially height, sufficient traction capabilities for up to 85 tons, high maneuverability, and ease of control in reverse mode. Work on the tractor lasted about 3 years, and by 1959, the first 3 units had already been built. The vehicles were named MAZ 541. The first presentation of the tractors amazed the public. No one expected to see anything like that. It was something beyond the imagination of the average Soviet citizen. The airfield tractor received full four-wheel drive with the option to disengage the front axle. The front and rear wheels of the tractor were of different diameters. The front ones came from the YAAZ 214 truck, while the rear had dual tires from the MAZ 525 quarry dump truck. Thanks to its wide, large diameter tires and an incredible weight of 28 tons and 230 kilograms, achieved by adding extra ballast to the tractor's body structure, the 541st achieved the best possible traction on the airfield's concrete surface. The tractor was powered by a V-shaped, 12-cylinder D12A diesel engine with a displacement of 38.8 liters and an output of 375 horsepower. This was a transport modification of the famous V2 tank engine, which during World War II was installed on the legendary T-34 tanks. This power unit consumed 45 liters of diesel per hour, or 130 liters per 100 kilometers. The vehicle's gearbox also came from the MAZ 525 dump truck. Why did such a utilitarian vehicle as an airfield tractor get such unusual design shapes? First of all, this was due to the technical requirements set by the customers, namely, a low height. Although it's hard to call the 541 low, it was only 11 centimeters lower than the MAZ 535 tractor. So, to make the new vehicle more maneuverable and suitable for performing the functions of an airfield tractor, its rear part was lowered, thus creating the shape of a classic sedan with a hood, a passenger compartment, a centrally positioned cab, and a lowered rear section that somewhat resembled a trunk. The lowered rear section provided much better visibility when moving in reverse. To make the tractor resemble a sedan even more, the designers gave the vehicle shapes that matched the styling of passenger cars of that era. The 541 received a massive and sculpted shape reminiscent of a classic sedan from the 50s, with predominantly smooth body lines. The tractor looked especially striking thanks to its original and tall rear wheel arches. Perhaps it was the design of the minced tractor that inspired the creators of classic Batman movies when they were coming up with a car for their superhero. But why did many people present at the car's unveiling immediately doubt that they were looking at an airfield tractor and not yet another luxury vehicle for the communist elite? Well, first of all, because of the unusual body shape, which resembled a sedan, and secondly, because of the car's striking exterior details, the frames of two round headlights at the end of each fender, as well as the massive radiator grille, which gleamed with chrome. But why would an ordinary airfield tractor need such expensive exterior detailing? And the answer to this question becomes clear when we find out exactly where the minced tractor was supposed to operate. It was supposed to operate at Moscow's Sheremetyevo International Airport, where flights regularly arrived carrying distinguished foreign guests. That's why, upon seeing these unusual and brightly colored sedan-shaped tractors at the airfield, foreigners were meant to form a positive impression of the Soviet Union. In addition to its bright exterior design, the tractor featured a spacious two-door cabin with a three-section windshield. It was in the cabin that the feature making this tractor special and different from the rest, tractors that could only loosely be called airfield vehicles, was found: dual driving controls. As you know, back in those days, no one had any idea what rear-view cameras were, so reversing in large trucks was a real challenge for drivers, especially for those working with airfield tractors. Backing up under the fuselage of an airplane, when there was a complete blind spot behind you, was truly precision work, because even the slightest wrong move could lead not just to an accident, but to a real disaster. The first three vehicles were built in 1959, and that same year they were sent for testing at Vnukovo Airport. Later, they were assigned to their permanent workplace at Moscow's Sheremetyevo International Airport, where they worked with the heaviest aircraft of the time, the Tu-104 and Tu-114. By the late 60s, it was quite common to see the vehicle paired with the famous supersonic airliner Tu-144. After working at the airport, the 541 no longer gleamed with chrome. Their radiator grilles and headlight frames were painted to match the main body color. In total, the Ministry of Aviation Industry of the USSR ordered 13 of these cars, but after 3 were built, they declined the remaining 10. The reason for this decision was the preparation for the launch of production of the new long-range passenger airliner IL-62, which made its first flight on January 3, 1963. To work with the new aircraft, which had a maximum takeoff weight of 161 tons, the technically outdated hooded sedan-type tractor without power steering was no longer up to the task. The 3 units finished their careers as airport tractors in 1970. The further fate of these machines is unknown, but most likely, they were simply scrapped for metal. All that remains of this bold creation of the Soviet automotive industry are a few photographs and rare video footage from documentary chronicles.